Georgia, unfortunately, remains ground zero for voter suppression. And despite the misinformation and I would say outright disinformation delivered often by our top two leaders, by the governor and by the Secretary of State, the law that they passed in 2021 was not in response to any issues of voter security. It was entirely driven, as the governor said, by his frustration with the results. The wrong people voted, in his estimation. And so our responsibility is, one, to let those wrong people know you were right. You were right to show up, and you should show up again.
That was Georgia Democratic gubernatorial candidate Stacey Abrams. One of the first stories we covered on this show way back in 2020 was a historic shift in Georgia from a longtime Republican stronghold to one of the nation's top battleground states, with the historic elections of Democratic President Joe Biden and Senators Raphael Warnock and Jon Ossoff. We also covered the aftermath of those wins, a complete overhaul of the state's voting laws that created new restrictions primarily affecting older, rural, and black and brown voters. Now, ahead of the midterms, as Senator Raphael Warnock battles Herschel Walker for a full term and Stacey Abrams seeks a 2018 rematch between Georgia Governor Brian Kemp, Abrams says a big part of the two Democrats' campaign is, quote, guiding voters through the new minefields of voter suppression. Joining me now to break this all down, Nsé Ufot, the CEO of the New Georgia Project Action Fund. So react to the point that Stacey Abrams is making there. I mean, the job of Democrats in this cycle is to actually guide voters through this new minefield of voter suppression. This is a new message from Democrats. Democrats do not usually talk about voter suppression so openly. So take us through why they're doing that in this moment.
I think the Democrats that are talking about voter suppression in this moment are probably the ones that actually want to win. And so it's not just talking about voter suppression and identifying the problem. It's also providing solutions for Georgians to give them the game, if you will, to let people know how one can overcome voter suppression in this moment and make sure that A, they're able to vote, and B, that their vote counts. I also think that the Democrats who are talking about voter suppression in this moment have a clarity. They know that Georgia is close, that it is legitimately America's newest battleground state, and the top of the ticket races are in a dead heat. Herschel Walker is not doing nearly as good as the polls would have you suggest, and Stacey Abrams is not doing nearly as bad, again, as the polls and the chattering class would have you believe. This is a ball game. This is tied.
Well, one of the things I always find funny is that as a field organizer in the chattering class, if you will, is that if you've never actually knocked on a door, be quiet, because you actually don't, like, you know what I mean? Like, you can sit in the studio and you can talk about, you know, what voter turnout, what the polling data is showing you. But if you have never talked to a voter on a door, I need you to be quiet. I really do, because I think that, you know, that's why I talk to people like you, because you're on the ground. It's the grassroots that we have to listen to in this moment.
And I just really, really want to thank you for making that point. I have been reading a bunch of, let's say, lukewarm takes from people who have ideas and thoughts about what's happening in the Georgia race right now. We have knocked on 1.24 million doors since MLK Day of 2022. We've registered an additional 30,000 young people and Black folks to vote in Georgia since MLK Day of 2022, at a time where the Secretary of State wanted you to believe that there were no more people left to register in Georgia. These 2004 babies want to participate in our election. They have opinions. They have a vision for themselves. They have a vision for Georgia that they want to participate in. And one of the ways that they are trying to make that happen is by choosing the leaders who are going to carry us into the future, the folks who are going to be in the governor's mansion, the folks who are going to be in the Secretary of State seat when Georgia becomes a majority people of color state in 2025.
So this is such a crucial point. There's two things that you said I want to drill down on. One, you said that the babies that are turning 18, they're fired up. They're ready to go. They want to get engaged in the process that is democracy because, you know, they have to live here in the climate dystopia. The second thing you said is that Georgia's demographics are shifting. Talk about how both of those things are creating an electorate that we really have not, every election there's a new electorate. And so this electorate, you know, any analysis to predict how it's going to behave may be way off, given the fact that you said there's new people registering every day.
Like I said, New Georgia Project alone, our affiliate, has registered 30,000 new people to vote this year, not to mention this sort of ecosystem of civic engagement organizations, civil rights organizations, reproductive justice organizations who are animated in this moment and fired up about what has happened to healthcare and what is happening to bodily autonomy and the civil rights that we currently enjoy. Yeah, the reversal of the Great Migration is alive and well, and nowhere is that happening more acutely than in places like Georgia. Folks are not just moving to Atlanta, despite what traffic patterns indicate. They are moving all over the great state of Georgia, and it has fundamentally change our electorate and what is possible. And so relying only on polls, I'm not saying that polling isn't useful to try to get a snapshot of what's on people's hearts and minds, but relying only on polls to tell you what's happening and to capture sentiment in a place like Georgia where the electorate is expanding so quickly because of our organizing feels irresponsible and like political analysts malpractice.
Well, I mean, it just feels like you're doing analysis of something you do not know about. You know, you know, I feel like organizers out there probably sit around with the TVs on above their heads and are like, you don't know my life. You know, that's at least how I felt when I was in the campaign office back in 2008.
That is definitely me. I think that there are people who are looking at the governor's race in Georgia as a rematch of 2018. And I mean, I guess, but it feels like lazy analysis because we're talking about a Georgia where President Biden won by just under 12,000 votes, a margin of 0.0015 percentage points. We're talking about a Georgia where 9 weeks later, folks elected Senators Warnock and Ossoff. We're talking about a Georgia where just now we're talking about 120,000 people that have registered, that have requested their absentee ballots already. And almost 7 out of 10 of the folks, Georgians who've already requested their ballots are women. Almost 7 out of 10 Democrats. Right?
No, that's such an...
Go ahead.
That's such an important data point. I wanted to bring up one more thing before we had to go, which is that there's going to be a debate coming up for folks down in Georgia. So the Senate race there between Warnock and Herschel Walker, you mentioned, is October the 14th. I mean, any predictions? Because I feel like the pastor of MLK's church versus Herschel Walker is going to be... I'm going to tune in. I'm going to tune into that.
We're talking about an Ivy League educated doctor and religious scholar, pastor of Ebenezer Church, born and bred in the Southern Baptist, evangelical, high-performing rhetorical tradition, and then Herschel Walker. It's going to be interesting. I mean, I think that it's held in Savannah. Chatham County, where Savannah is, has the second highest rate of homelessness in the state of Georgia. And so I don't know if Herschel Walker is going to have a complete response to that. I mean, we've seen his performances up to this point. I think the people of Georgia absolutely deserve a real debate. The people of Georgia absolutely deserve a comparison of ideas, an exchange of ideas about why these men think they are best to lead our state. I don't know if Walker or his team actually want to invite the comparison, but it's happening, and I have all kinds of events planned around it.
Well, that's what organizers do. And so that's what you will do. Nsé Ufot, thank you so much for being here and helping us understand Georgia. It's so interesting and fascinating to see all of this unfold in real time. Please stay safe.
Hi, I'm Zerlina Maxwell. Thanks for checking out our channel on YouTube. You can see more from Zerlina by clicking any of the videos on this screen, and make sure you subscribe below to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. Thanks for watching.